Afternoon, everybody. Today what we're going to be discussing is some of the many roles that women played during the Civil War. They played many roles. We're going to be focusing on one specific role in this particular instance. Now, I'm going to have to read something here because it's a note I wrote a couple of years ago and it gives a lot more information and I can't quote it verbatim, so I'm going to be reading some of my own words. At the beginning of the Civil War, little thought was given to the huge medical needs of both armies. Conditions were horrific, and it quickly became common for wounded soldiers to conceal injuries so as to avoid being ordered to the hospitals, where disease and infection killed a large majority of the wounded. At this time, it is well known that most men, including the Surgeon General, looked down upon or were even hostile toward women nurses. It was a general consensus that women could not handle stresses of hospital work and were much better suited to staying at home making bandages and soothing men when they came home on furlough. It was permissible for women to nurse at home, but an army hospital presented sights that no lady should see. That's how they viewed it. That's the old worldview of women. But women of the North and of the South were not content to merely sit at home while the horrors of war were happening all around them. One of the best hospitals in all of the South was established in Richmond by Sally Louisa Tompkins, who Jefferson Davis eventually commissioned as a captain so that her infirmary could qualify as an army hospital. This way she can get the supplies that she needed. Now, another major event, there's many of them, I'm focusing on just a few. Elizabeth Blackwell, the first American woman to brave the male derision to earn an MD in 1849, took the lead in organizing a meeting of 3,000 women at Cooper Institute in New York on April 29, 1861, which formed the Women's Central Association for Relief, which became the nucleus of the United States Sanitary Commission, which led to the cleaning and organizing of all Union camps. Sanitary inspectors, from the commission instructed soldiers in proper camp drainage, placement of latrines, water supply, and cooking. The units who listened benefited greatly from this instruction. The commission also created what would be known as triage to help sort out patients and organize hospitals' wagon trains to quickly get the wounded soldiers off the battlefield into a hospital as quickly as possible. In the words of internationally known historian James McPherson, he said, quote, "The Civil War marked a milestone in the transformation of nursing from a menial service to a genuine profession." Now, another instance that stood out to me particularly in all of this was at when I was studying we were at Antietam a few months ago, and we came to the Clara Barton Memorial, and that's where it shows that it says on the memorial to her that she got a wagon of supplies. She couldn't stand what was happening. The men were being treated so horribly, and they weren't being taken care of. Got a wagon of supplies, got a whole bunch of people with her, 300 people, showed up on the battlefield, and just said, okay, how can I help? And using supplies of her own, she began organizing, began taking care of the men, and nursing them, giving them food, and looking after them. And she became very well known as one of the people who was very much able to help with the horrible conditions of the war. And she would go on to serve in many different elements in the Civil War in terms of medical service. And she would also go on to go to Switzerland in 1869 to be part of the International Red Cross. And through her efforts and all of her hard work, she would go on to form the American Red Cross in 1880. Some of the many things that came out of the Civil War. And while these women were determined to fight the point of view that they're supposed to sit at home and do nothing while everything's going on around them, many women broke the mold and came out, and they not only stood by their men, they stood by their countries, and they made sure that they were able to be a valuable part of the war effort. So there you go.